What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about the story behind me trying to buy my very first Lamborghini. As you can see behind me, this is my Audi R8, which I ended up buying instead. It's essentially the same car, we just have a different shell. There's some Lamborghini badges and logos on the transmission and up underneath. But I want to talk about a Lambo. That's everyone's dream car, I think. You want a Lamborghini, it's a cool exotic supercar, and I love the old school mechanical feel of these cars, especially when you get them with the gated manual. Now, a lot of the e-gear transmissions are also fun to drive because they're very engaging and you can feel the shifts, which is a whole nother topic. But this is my second Audi R8, and the reason that I went with another R8 is because trying to buy a six-figure car is a little bit tricky. I learned a lot in this process in trying to buy that car, and for right now, the time being, I'd rather have the Audi R8, which I'll explain later in this video. But this is my second R8. I owned a 2010 for a little bit, and I decided to sell that car in order to get the all-new Chevrolet Corvette C8, which in my opinion now, looking back at it, was a huge mistake. That's a pretty awesome car, but it just doesn't give me the same feeling that the R8 does, especially having it with the manual transmission. So when I sold that car and canceled my order for the C8, I was on the hunt for my next supercar or sports car. And so I actually didn't have a sports car for about a year and a half or so, and I was truly missing it. Like, I love getting out in the cars, going for drives, going to car shows, meeting a whole bunch of people that I never would have met if I didn't have a car and went to those shows. Now, of course, you can go to those shows and not have a car, but I just enjoy being in this car, being in any sports car really, and having that fun, taking them on drives. And so I missed a car. I was on the hunt for another supercar or sports car, and my two choices that I ended up narrowing it down to was an Audi R8 or a Lamborghini Gallardo. So in my search for my next sports car, I was setting a budget for myself around $80,000, which is a good amount of money. My first R8 was around 70 grand, so I knew I could push it just a little bit and still be comfortable. So 80 grand seemed to be a pretty reasonable price for the cars that I was looking at, Lamborghini or Audi R8. Now, on the Lamborghini side, that was a little bit low for the manual that I was trying to find. First gen Lamborghini Gallardos is what I was looking for, and the e-gears were right around that price range, but I knew that I truly wanted a 6-speed manual transmission. So in my search for the Lamborghini Gallardo, I was finding them anywhere from around 95 grand up to 120, which was a stretch out of my budget, but it was something that I thought maybe this could be possible. It might be plausible depending on what I put down on the car, which I'll get to here soon. And in my search, one day I found this beautiful 2006. It was finished off in red, had the tan interior, so it was a little bit of an old man spec, I would say, but I loved the exterior red. It was super clean, had around 40,000 miles on it, which is a lot. I sold my first R8 with 45,000 on it, so I knew that was still okay, maybe a little bit high for what I was looking for, but this was so pretty that I started to seriously consider this car. I actually found it at a Honda dealership and they had it listed for 107, and I didn't act quick enough on this car. It eventually got sold and I found it at another dealership where they had it listed for almost $120,000. So they had a huge markup on this car, but I tried to use that to my advantage. So I was talking with this dealership and I knew how much they paid for the car because I talked to the previous dealer that sold it, and I tried to work that into the negotiation. We actually got the price down around 10 grand off, so it was closer to $110,000, which was still a lot. We're talking 30 or 40 grand more than a car like the R8 that you see behind me. But I tried to push for this car, you guys. I really wanted a Lamborghini. I knew this would be a very cool car. Manuals are starting to become a dying breed, which is why this dealership had this marked up so high, because they thought that they could get that price for it. Eventually sold, I'm not sure what they sold it for, but manuals are becoming more rare and rare. So dealerships are putting a premium on these cars, which is unfortunate because everyone wants these cars, and I think at some point, while they still hold their value, I don't think it's going to be a very high premium, but I could be wrong. You know, like I said, manuals are a dying breed, so we'll see. But anyway, so that car was around $110,000, and I actually got approved for the car, but I got approved with having to put around $40,000 or $50,000 down for the car. Now, that is a huge chunk of money, and some people would say that is a waste of money, especially for a car. Now, you can view it that way, but in my perspective, cars are a part of our business. So buying and selling cars, making content on these cars is how we make our money back and how we can justify buying expensive cars like this. Now that's not the same for everyone. Not everyone has a channel where they can make content on the car, or they have the passion to do that. Some people just want the car, they want to own it and have fun with the car as well. So it's really where your passion is and what you're willing to spend your money on. And for me, that is cars. I love cars. While it is an expensive car, it makes sense to me, but I did not want to spend that much money or put that much money into a car. That just seemed crazy for me, especially with the monthly payments with putting that amount down. So I got approved for the Lamborghini. I was very excited for it, but I just couldn't justify that. That was way too much money to have tied up into a vehicle. And so I decided to start focusing back on the Audi R8. So I was looking for 2010 to 2012s, a few 2014s that I found. They skipped 2013, so there was no model year for that. And I was finding them anywhere between the mid 60s up to the 70s. There were even some V8 models going for 100 grand, which is way too much money for a V8 manual. But at the same time too, I was finding a much newer car for less money than a first gen Lambo. So this is a 2012. I was looking at 2006 Lambos, 2005 Lambos. So I was getting a lot more technology, less miles, and a cheaper car, still having that exotic look and that manual, just not spending as much as a Lamborghini. So I did a whole bunch of searching for another R8. My first R8 actually took around 3 months to find, and same with this car. It took me around 3 months to find this car. Every time I found a manual R8, it sold. I was getting really excited about it. I'd contact the dealer, sold the next day. Did it again, car sold. I eventually found this car, which was a private sale. And so that meant I needed some help getting this car because I really wanted this spec. It had everything that I wanted. Carbon fiber on the exterior, carbon fiber on the interior. White was not really my first choice, but after having this car for around 2 months, I love the white. It really pops with all the carbon, especially with the red that I just added to it. So I needed some help in getting this car being a private sale. And so I contacted my buddies at Champion Car Company to help me get this car from California to the East Coast. Being a private sale, that made it much easier for them to be the third party to help me complete the transaction. So I ended up with the Audi R8, which I don't regret. This is an amazing car. It's cheaper than the Lambo, a little bit easier to maintain. It doesn't get as much attention as a Lamborghini would. I still do get attention in this car, but I don't think it's the same as a Lamborghini because I can tell people it's just an Audi. And while Audis are expensive cars, it's just an Audi, which I can kind of get away with compared to saying, oh, it's a Lamborghini. So I want to move on to finances now. To be able to afford items like this, you have to have great credit history. And even with my perfect credit history, I was still required to put down a large amount of money, which I'll get to here soon. But credit, just briefly touching on that here, is something that you have to build up. You need to start small and you need to make your payments every single month on credit cards, anything like that, to start building that credit up. Now, personally for me, I only have one credit card. I use it and pay everything off within a few weeks just to keep that credit going. And it's kind of crazy too with credit history. When I paid off my Tacoma and I sold my R8 and paid off my Tacoma, when I had no car loans, my credit history actually dropped because I wasn't buying anything. I wasn't paying for anything. And unfortunately with the system, they want you to keep paying for something in order to keep your credit history going up and up. So if you don't have anything to pay for, or you even pay for stuff in cash, that will drop your credit history just a little bit. So if you can keep things going, which is another reason why I don't pay cash for vehicles, because there's no point to tie up all that money into a car when you can actually put a little bit down and build your credit history at the same time, and then use that other money that you didn't put into that car for other things in your life. So it kind of works its way into being a good thing financing, not necessarily all the time, but especially for a car like this. If you can stay right side up in your car loan and how you're paying for it, that can actually help you in building your credit history. So this is something that just takes time. You can't do that overnight. You need to slowly work your way up and keep it until you can get it up as high as you can, and try to maintain it and keep it at that level. And that's basically how you can become easily approved or more quickly approved for items, especially like my car here. And even with perfect credit history, I was required to put around $30,000 down for this car, which was almost double what I had to do on my first car. So it's crazy to see how financing and finances have changed over the last few years. But at the same time too, that money that I put into this car, I can sell this car tomorrow and take that money right back out. So if you buy the right car, you buy cars that won't really depreciate, especially on the used market, these are holding their value pretty much at the same level. And there's a lot of other cars that do that as well. personally, I would rather have that money sitting in this car where it might appreciate. Being the manual, like I said earlier, is a dying breed. This might actually appreciate a little bit, and if I sold this car, I can put it back into my bank account, but I would rather enjoy this car and drive this money than just watch it sit and do nothing. So to me, I can value doing that because I can sell this if I was really hurting and I needed that money, I could sell this and get all that money back. So that's not a concern for me, but I have a lot more fun in driving that money than watching it sit. So down payment is also something too that can make or break it for you in actually being able to afford the car, and then also that helps you with your monthly payment. And then with that monthly payment, that can help continue to build your credit because you have something that you have to pay off every single month. And one thing that I learned with this Lamborghini Gallardo too is the fact that older cars are actually harder to get approved for than newer cars. So that's why you see today a lot of people can get easily approved or more easily approved for a brand new car than one that's 2 or 3 years old. And the same thing for this R8 here. This is a 2012, so it falls within the 10 years that banks usually approve for cars. Anything 10 years old or older, like the 2006 Lambo, is going to be much harder to get approved for, which is why they require a lot more money to be put down on that car. Now, one thing that I found interesting, if I owned a house right now, I would have been easily more approved for that Lambo than not having a house, because they can see that as your collateral basically. If you don't make payments on this expensive old car, we're gonna take your house. So if I had a house, I might have been able to work it a little bit better. I don't value having a house right now, which is a whole nother topic. So it's weird how things like that you can use to get the things that you want, but you have to get that item first, if that makes sense. So I went with the cheaper car, even though I probably could have got that car had I put more money down. I went with the cheaper car because I value that $30,000, $40,000 that I didn't spend on the Lamborghini to go on the down payment on a house in the future. So I still have a fun car, I can still buy a house in the future, and then at some point when I have the house, I can sell this, work on the Lamborghini. So it's just a game and a puzzle on where all the pieces go, when they go into those slots, and basically how you can work the system. And with all that being said, the Audi R8 is still one of my dream cars, which is why I bought a second one, and I really have no plans on getting rid of this until I find that perfect manual Lamborghini Gallardo, which might be a little hard as they are getting more rare and rare. This isn't going anywhere because it brings me joy. It's so much fun to drive, and I just love being able to drive it every single day. Now, with that being said, just because a car is expensive doesn't mean it's going to be more fun than another car. For example, I owned a 350Z the same time I owned my other Audi R8, and it was just as fun. So it doesn't matter the dream car that you're looking to buy, as long as it's going to make you happy. And I just love the fact that I can go to car shows, I can meet other car people in the car community, and also be able to show what hard work can do and what you can spend your hard-earned money on. Now, not everyone is going to have the same viewpoint on what to spend your money on, but for me, it's cars because I love the car community and I just enjoy it. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, my story behind trying to buy my first Lamborghini Gallardo. Hopefully one day I will be able to do that. But comment down below, let me know what your dream car is and what you're currently doing in order to obtain that. Comment down below and let me know. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button if you'd like to stay up to date on our daily uploads. I'll see you guys in the next video.